Good morning and welcome to World Changer, Empowering Female Leaders. I'm Chavonne D. Stewart, your host, and I'm excited about today, guys. Today is a very, very special day. It is Veterans Day. So we're going to salute our veterans today. We're going to give them some praise today because if it was not for our veterans, we would not have the protection in our nation that we have. So we salute our veterans. We're going to have a great conversation today. We have a special veteran online today. Her name is Miss Bettina Sellers, and I just thank God that she agreed to be my veteran today to represent Veterans
Yes,
Day. I want to remind you guys that She Is Still Dope TV. Please go out to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch to like our pages. Subscribe on YouTube so that you'll get those alerts when we come live. So you'll know we have many, many shows that are on the She Is Still Dope TV, many shows that are going to be releasing over the next few months. So I just want to encourage you guys to go out and like our page. Also, you can watch us on your devices as well. So if you have YouTube on your smart TV, on your phone, don't forget to pull that YouTube out and watch us on TV. So if you need that bigger screen, there you go. You can watch it on YouTube. If you have any prayer requests, always please send your prayer request to pray@sheisstilldope.com. So like I said, guys, it's Veterans Day. Special, special, special day. And I have Bettina Sellers, who's a comedian. She's the Say What podcast co-host. She's a counselor. She's a motivational speaker. She's retired Air Force. She's a woman of many talents and many skills. So, Bettina, why don't you introduce yourself to the followers?
good morning, everybody. Good morning to everybody who's taking the time out of your busy schedule to check us out this morning. This is amazing. I feel honored that you asked me to be here this morning. Yes, I retired from the Air Force 20 years and 12 days. I'm going to represent because my shirt can't be seen, so I got to make sure everybody can see my shirt.
Yes.
So proud Air Force veteran. And I am a comedian. I started doing it. That is a gift that I didn't recognize God gave me. And I didn't recognize it as such for many, many years. I do clean comedy for a cause. I have a nonprofit, the Teen and Family Showing Love Our Way Foundation, and we raise money for homeless veterans and survivors of domestic violence. I am a licensed mental health therapist. I specialize in trauma. I have a lot of jobs. I do a lot of stuff. And I am so glad to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here. So many times you hear in the news of how, our veterans can tend to be overlooked, even those that are active military. So I don't overlook them because I know
Well,
if
we
it had
thank
not
you for
been
that.
if it had not been for them, guys, we wouldn't have the protection. When wars come up, somebody has to go fight those battles. So it's people that God has laid on their heart to serve. So our theme for today is honoring veterans. And our scripture for today was John 15:13. It says, greater love has no man than this, and to lay down his life for his friends. And I
Yes.
felt like that was the perfect or one of the perfect scriptures. I mean, we could have gone somewhere very courageous because it takes a courageous person. Because a lot of times when you sign up for the military, I'm sure in the back of your mind, you're thinking and hoping you're never going to battle. But
Yes.
there have been times where people sign up and had to ship off and go to battle. So I just
Yes.
want to share a few statistics, and we're going to acknowledge some anniversaries today.
Yes.
When I looked it up, it's an estimate between 17.4 and 18.8 million veterans in the United States. So that's about 7.6% of our population. And there's so much that can be said about veterans, the issues they face when they come back after being in combat. We need to pray for our veterans. We really do
Amen.
because it's a lot of psychological issues, physical issues. And as the wars have changed over the years, it's some injuries that some of these veterans cannot come back. They're losing more limbs,
That's
being
right.
burned. It's so much going on when they're fighting on our behalf. But you have those that even though they fight, I've never met one that says, I wish I never signed up. So we thank God for them. Also, if you did not know, this is the 75th anniversary of V-Day since we ended World War II.
Oh, wow.
It's been 67 years since the Korean conflict ended. This year marks 45 years since the Vietnam War ended, and then 30th anniversary of the Gulf War. And now, when the Gulf War happened, I was what? I was in middle school. So I knew about it and we had learned, we've learned wars, but when you think about it, now I didn't go
Right.
back to World War One. Not to say there aren't any World War One veterans left, but
Right.
that's a little over 102 years. So if there are, we still salute them as well. And I know the last cruise I went on, we actually had a World War II veteran on there. He was in his 90s and he was still kicking it and moving it. And so we was on the boat during Veterans Day week, and we did everything about that cruise was saluting our veterans on that day. So we're
Awesome.
gonna go ahead and get into our topic, and I just want Bettina just to begin and talk about your experiences because you're retired, so that means you served your 20 years. But just share some experiences that you had while you were there, and then what you see now, because I believe what you see now is what's caused you to tap into the market that you're doing, the mental health counseling and the clean comedy. So just share with our viewers.
Absolutely. So I enlisted when I was 18 years old. I went in, I was probably a couple of weeks after turning 18. I enlisted prior to that because you can do early, you can do what they call the delayed enlistment program. So I enlisted at 17. I actually went on active duty at 18. And I was in a somewhat unique situation because I had an option of choosing what I wanted to do. And I grew up a tomboy and, I was fascinated with kind of physical stuff. Of course, I was a little smaller then, like 115 pounds, and my little physical prowess was different. But anyway,
Okay.
I was teeny tiny.
Okay.
So I went in and I ended up being a security police. And at that time, they had just started allowing women to be security police again in the Air Force. Now, there's a difference between law enforcement and security police. When you go on a military installation, it used to be, now they have federal police. But when you go through the gate, what you would see is you would see a military police, and we call them law enforcement. That's what females were. So they weren't normally security police. Security police actually enlist, and we guard the planes. We take care of the Minuteman II missiles. I was in Montana. So we took care of the Minuteman II missiles and the airplanes and things like that. So I was in a unique position because I was one of very few females. I was the only female on my flight in what we refer to as Air Base Ground Defense School. I won't use acronyms because it might throw people who are not
I'm
military.
clueless. I promise you, I'm clueless. Don't do no
So I
acronyms.
was
Give it all out to us.
Yes, I was the only female in my flight of 35 men and in Air Base Ground Defense School. And basic training you were in with other women, but as I
Okay.
moved through my training, and we call it technical training. Some other branches of the service have different names for what they call their technical training. We called it technical training. And so I was one of few females there. Even in tech school, security police school, it probably was about four of us, and we were spread out in different flights. It might have been six. And so we had I was in a unique situation, and I was surrounded by men all day long. It wasn't always fun.
Mm-hmm.
I thank my mom, I thank God, and I thank my mom because I've always had a very strong personality. So I was able, in a lot of ways, to hold my own and to take care of myself. And you get comments and statements and things like that. They think you can't do as much as they can do. They dislike you because you're there, some of them, and they feel like women shouldn't be there. So there were a lot of different challenges. And as you said at the very beginning, there have
Mm-hmm.
been places that I was stationed at that I might not have really wanted to be, and I've had supervisors that I wasn't really happy with. Not once ever have I said I wish I didn't enlist. Every single day that I served in the Air Force was a great day for me. I woke up every day knowing that this is what I was supposed to do. I, in the eighth grade, decided that I wanted to enlist in the Air Force because I had a brother older than me in ROTC in school, and he
Okay.
was on the drill team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so fascinated because he commanded the drill team. They were spinning weapons and going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm gonna do just that. I'm gonna do exactly what my brother is doing. So I did. When in the ninth grade, I went in ROTC and I got on the drill team. And like we were at like the third day of practice, and we were spinning weapons, and I busted my head with the butt of the weapon. And then I said, okay, so drill team is not for me.
Not for you. Okay.
I'm just gonna keep this ROTC thing going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after I finished seeing the stars, I politely handed them the weapon and said, "Everybody have a good day. I'm gonna see you in ROTC class." and I
Okay.
didn't go back.
Go back.
So right. So I from there though, and it's really amazing because I'm so grateful that God put it in my spirit at a young age, even before I was so connected to the word of God. I
Mhm.
said, I'm going to go in the Air Force. I'm going to make my mom my dependent. I'm going to buy her a car and I'm going to spend 20 years in the Air Force and retire. I said that in the 8th grade.
In the
I
eighth
went in
grade.
the Air Force at 18 years old. At 19, I purchased my mother a car.
Wow.
I went overseas to Turkey. I retired from the Air Force at 20 years.
Mm.
And I did exactly what I said. And my mom's been was my dependent for 18 of the 20 years I was enlisted.
Okay. Oh, wow. So tell us some places you mentioned Turkey. Where are some other places you were stationed?
So I've been stationed. Turkey was the only base overseas where I was actually stationed. However, I did have the opportunity to go what we refer to as TDY, which is temporary duty assignment.
Okay.
And that's you maybe going for a month, 5 months, 6 months to do your job in another location, another base. So I've been to Germany, I've been to Spain,
Oh,
Italy,
okay.
Belgium. I had the opportunity, I was the only female on the Mediterranean sports flag football team when I was in Turkey, and I was a center.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
And
you
so
don't you don't mess around. You just get down with whoever it is.
you got to do what you got to do.
You
And I
gotta
mean,
do
that was right up my alley. I coached for, we have what we call MWR, morale and welfare.
Mm-hmm.
And so MWR that's who does volunteer work with the kids. So I volunteered when I was 19, 20 years old, volunteering to coach football, baseball, and basketball.
Okay.
I and like I said, I was only female. We traveled and went TDY, so it was always a shocker whenever we went there because my sweatshirt said "Too Sweet" on it. On each shoulder, it
Okay.
had "Too Sweet" on it. So of course, the other teams were like,
What's she talking about?
right, and I was the center. So
Okay.
the other quarterbacks was like, "Oh, do y'all need to let your center bar?" You said, "No, miss me with that. This is all about the business." And they finally, when I played, of course, it's
Mm-hmm.
all jokes and smart aleck kind of comments. Once
Mm-hmm.
they saw that I could actually play and I wasn't a decoy and I wasn't there
Mm-hmm.
just to show my face, they
Mm-hmm.
realized, okay, we got to take her serious because she's gonna help them win this game if we're not careful. We're busy staring
Mm-hmm.
at her. So it's always it's always been so Turkey. I've done Germany. I didn't have the opportunity to go to any of the Asian assignments. I would have liked to have done that, like Korea and Japan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed to see other countries, and this is when I enlisted. I know that people wonder about, oh, you must have been really patriotic and this, that, and the other. Listen, here's the facts. I was not. And it wasn't that I didn't love my country. That wasn't it. When I went in, I wasn't thinking about country. My mom was a single parent of 6 children. I'm the last of six. I
Okay.
wanted to help my mom. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to take off and go to college and cause some financial problems because of loans and things like that. And then, quite honestly, I was not ready for anybody's college. Okay,
Yes.
years and years later, you master's degree and all that. However, at that time, I was not ready for
Mm-hmm.
college. I was not ready. I didn't want to go. I wanted to be done with school, and I knew that my mom needed help. So when I went in, the I was blessed. I never was in. I never had to go to a foreign location for the conflicts for the Gulf War. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to do that. We were support here. However, going into those conflicts, every job that you have in the military is mission essential. And what I mean is you're there for a reason. And
Okay.
when we're young, we don't understand how they fit. Like for example, people say, "Oh well, cooks are just cooks." No, how are you going to eat in the field if you don't have cooks out there cooking for you,
That's
right?
true.
And so everybody's job is important. And if you can make young people understand that when they're in those jobs, they would take them more serious.
Seriously.
So I had the opportunity to do a lot of amazing things, and I'm just blessed and I'm grateful.
That's awesome. Well, like I was just about to ask you, so you really didn't get into the conflict head on, but you were, like you said, providing that support. So let's go along. Let's think about our scripture today. So when I sent that scripture to you, what was the first thing that came to mind when you thought about that scripture and then connected it to your experiences?
So the first thing that came to mind for me was when we swore in at what we call the MEP station, the Military Entrance Processing Station.
Okay.
And when you swear in, you raise your right hand and you swear to support and defend your country from enemies, foreign and domestic. And
Oh,
so that's what came to mind when I read the scripture. And I thought, exactly. You know, when you enlist, we didn't go in thinking that we would be laying down our lives. I don't think, I know I didn't. I know a lot of people that I know didn't feel like I'm going to serve my country and protect and serve and all this old good stuff. I said, I
mhm.
need to go in here. I need to make my mom a dependent. I need to buy my mom a car. I need to, you know, because I grew up, we were on welfare. We had food stamps. We didn't have the cute one where you can swipe. We had them food stamps
Who's
that you got
that?
to
Yeah,
take
we
your
get
thumb
the
and you got to
yeah,
pull them out. And some of them was purple and green. And
yeah, yeah, the
had
stamp
loads
book.
of food. Yes,
Yeah.
you got to carry your pack with you with the little card. So we didn't have the pleasure, okay, of swiping a card and making it look like it's a debit card. And so, we had the opportunity to go in. I had the opportunity to go in and really help my mom. And that person that asked the question is my daughter, Alexis Sellers. She she was in the Air Force as well. So we have
Okay.
yeah. So she stepped in my footsteps. However, oh, back. I apologize. I got a little
No
sidetracked.
problem.
So yeah, when I thought about that, I thought about what we said when we enlisted about supporting and defending our country against enemies, foreign and domestic.
Mhm.
And it became the longer I was enlisted, the more important that became to me.
Okay.
My patriotism grew
Okay.
because as we're traveling through this space and you
Mhm.
hear people make comments. For example, I was a recruiter for a very long period of time in the Air Force. I've done a lot of jobs. I wasn't just a police officer. I was also a recruiter. And
Mhm.
I had people coming in and they made assumptions about the military. For example, you have people that come in with older parents and they say, no, I don't want my child going in because it's like Gomer Powell. They're going to be yelling at my child every day. And I said, ma'am, no, ma'am. Okay, it's not the way this works. You go
Yeah.
to basic training. Some
Mhm.
people call it boot camp, depending on the branch. You go to
Mhm.
basic training. Yes, there's yelling because they're trying to get everybody to be uniform. Okay, so
Mhm.
that you understand that you work as a team, and each of you is important on that team. So they try to get uniformity. They want you to learn the basics. That's why they call it basic training. And
Mhm.
when you go to your job, it's just like another job. The blessing is that you know every day what you're gonna wear. You don't have to go figure out what you're gonna pull out and wear. You're gonna wear one uniform or the other,
One
depending
or
on the
the
day.
other.
Right. So you know what you're gonna wear. And one of the ways I used to explain it to people is I said, so the difference is when you're enlisted, right?
Mhm.
If you
Mhm.
work at McDonald's and you go and you smoke or you weed or you use illegal drugs, they might fire you. When you go
Mhm.
in the military and you do it, you getting kicked out and it's gonna follow you probably for the rest of your life. So
Wow.
that's the difference, right? So I know in the Air Force for sure it is completely zero tolerance for drugs. If it
Okay.
comes up in your system, they're not going to kick you out right away. They're going to process you, they're going to get
Mhm.
you help, and they're going to gently process you out. And you may get, depending on what your situation is, a dishonorable discharge.
Wow.
So
Okay.
these
So they
are
don't
things
play
that
with.
we know. Oh, no, 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 no. We are not playing the radio. And it's a necessity because people need to have full faculty of their senses.
Mhm.
So, it's not that we don't have people that drink too much and that can be attached to the military too, quite honestly. I mean,
Mhm.
there are a
Mhm.
plethora of things that happen while you're in the military on active duty or reserve active duty or guard. There's a lot of things that happen that turn your life around. And
Mhm.
one of those things can be deploying,
Mhm.
losing a limb during deployment. There
Mhm.
have been a lot of people who have been sexually assaulted during a deployment, not just
Mhm.
women, men
Mhm.
as well. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of things that can happen that can change who you are. And just
Mhm.
being in the military itself, it changes who you are
That's
because
true.
you're not like the average person who hasn't gone. We're not better. We're
Mhm.
just different,
Different.
and when we can get people to understand that and be more sensitive to the comments that are made sometimes. I've had a lot of comments made like ain't nobody going to no military, people just do that because they can't get a job. there are comments like that I've heard. And of course, I have my own way of answering that stuff. Of course, at first I stop and I pause and I give them that look. And then I sometimes ask, do you want me to respond to that, or do you want to just say no thank you?
No, thank you.
You got an
Yeah.
option, right? Oftentimes they say, well, I was just playing. Okay. I didn't go to recess, so I don't play.
Wow. So you do face a whole lot. So let's come a little forward. I know you haven't done combat, but what was it like? Were you in during the time of 9/11, and then now these troops are being sent over to Iraq? What was it like at that time? And what was the greatest challenge for you during that time period?
So yes, I was at the time that the September 11th attacks took place. I was across the street from the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. I actually had surgery that day. I had an aunt, Fern Jones. Fern Jones Bird. She get hot when you don't put her whole hyphenated name out there. She, people serious about their name.
They serious about their name?
She worked in the Pentagon. She actually retired from the Pentagon after 43 years of service in the Pentagon. So she was there that day. I was not. From where I worked, I could actually see see the Pentagon from the window that I worked in Crystal City in Arlington, Virginia. And it was horrific. I had had a knee surgery, a procedure on my knee. I was at home, and a friend of mine called me and said, turn on the TV now. And I turned on the TV, and that's what I started to see. And I immediately thought of my aunt, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to try to call her. And trying to call at that time was very difficult. The phones were locked up. People, they had all of this stuff going on. So it was, the lines were getting crossed. It was millions of people trying to make calls, in different directions. And so it was hard to get through. And when I finally got through to her, she was exasperated. She was in tears. My grandmother at the time, who has since passed, my grandmother was she called me and she said, do you know where Fern is? Do you know where Fern is? And when I got on the line, I immediately clicked her in on three-way and got her so that she could hear her voice. And that was not just a time of sadness and sorrow. It was a time of frustration. It was, if I'm being completely honest, just angry. Like, what in the world makes one think that attacking and killing children and parents and just killing somebody I'm saying seemingly no reason. I'm saying innocent people. These are innocent people that have nothing. Many of these people that were killed, they weren't in any branch of the military. If you're on a battleground, then you're fighting. You're fighting, you're shooting at each other, you're trying to win. These people weren't trying to do anything. The people in the Twin Towers, who were they fighting? The daycare center, who were they fighting? And so it was senseless, and it infuriated me. It really infuriated me. And before that, I was patriotic. After that, I was extremely patriotic. And we're not a perfect nation. And I'll be very clear about that. We're not a perfect nation because there are no perfect people. There's not perfection except in God and Jesus, his son who walked this earth. So there's no perfection. However, this is the country. I wouldn't live in any other country. This is the country that I fought for, and I fought to serve, and I served to support and defend against enemies, foreign and domestic. And they came on domestic territory.
Came on our turf, as we would say.
So, when my mother said, you don't let nobody come in your house and beat you up, that just doesn't happen. You need to handle business. So it was a very, very difficult time. And I'm just thankful that I wasn't in the Pentagon that day, because I traveled in and out of the Pentagon consistently for my job. That was part of what I did. I went there to take care of administration. At that time, I was a superintendent of military personnel. So I worked with a lot of different branches. And they were building the F-22 fighter, the Joint Strike Fighter program is where I worked. And so I very easily could have been in the Pentagon at that very time. Very easy.
Wow. And I'm sure a lot of us can remember where we were during 9/11. I think that was probably probably the first attack on our country when you think about all the wars since the Civil War, because World War II, well, we had Pearl Harbor was bombed, but like to have it with inland, Hawaii was not connected exactly, but
Right.
to be inland and you're sitting there and you're in disbelief, like you said, people were turning on the radios because first you're thinking, oh, that pilot don't know how to fly. But then when they're coming in, they hitting two. You're like, okay, this is not about someone not knowing how to fly. This somebody's maliciously doing this. And then, the whole country is in an uproar about it. And so to me, I believe that shift the dynamic of the battlefield, how we fight, that constant, even with thinking about the word, God says it's going to be wars and it's going to be talks of wars, and you just never know when you're going to have to defend. And just that 9/11, like now, what it's been 19, 20 years, it seemed like it was still just yesterday. The remnant is still lingering there. And there are people that are still fighting or over in Afghanistan in those areas, serving and protecting and doing what they need to do. So I think it'll always be there's kids that don't even know about 9/11 because they were born at the time of 9/11. So
Right.
they're learning in their history books now. So let's talk about, let's talk about your transition. So you're coming to the point of, all right, it's time for me to retire. I know you weren't in combat, so your transition probably was different. But why don't you talk about what it was like? You've gone from military life, the strictness, the rigidness. How was transitioning for you coming into civilian life?
So the great thing for me is that I was mentally prepared to retire when I enlisted. And that was the
Okay.
blessing for me because I clearly stated when I enlisted I was going to serve 20 years. It didn't matter what my rank was, it didn't matter where I was. I wanted to serve 20 years and move on with my life. There are a lot
Mhm.
of people who are fearful of retiring because that's all that they know. Like they have the comfort of the military. I
Mhm.
want to clear something up for a lot of people who think people in the military get a lot of money. We don't get a lot of money. We
Okay.
have benefits. We have things like the commissary, which would be a grocery store for civilians. We have things like the BX, the base exchange, or the post exchange, which is like a department store. We don't have to pay taxes at the department store. Of course, we get medical and dental and life insurance for very little. However, we don't get paid a lot of money. We just get paid on the 1st and the 15th. Sometimes, many times, the money is gone on the 30th and the 13th. So that money is spent before you get your hands on it. Something else a lot of people don't know is many people in the military are on food stamps. Many people get food stamps, they get
Okay.
public assistance. And
Okay.
so that's something that, when people choose to serve, it is important to me that they know that. When I went in, I had people constantly asking me when I went back home in
Mhm.
my neighborhood, oh, I know you got that big money now. You get paid on the 1st and the 15th. And I was tilting my head and when I tell you, I still have some of my old leave and earning statements. We call them LESs. I still have some of my old leave and earning statements. And I looked at one from when I first enlisted, and I was getting $600 a month in 1985. The benefit was I lived on base. I didn't have to pay for where I live. We got to eat at the dining facility. We nicknamed it the Chow Hall. We got to
Mhm.
eat at the dining facility for free. Our insurance and our health and medical and dental was free.
Mhm.
However, I was only making like $600-700. I was like, how was I supposed? And I was sending money home to my mom.
To your mom. Wow.
Yes, and I didn't know that I was, that I didn't really have a bunch of money then. I didn't know that. I thought I was, I had a few $100s to kind of go to the
Mhm.
little club and all that good stuff. So, so in getting back to, I don't go to the club no more. Hold
No
on.
more. Okay.
So in answering your question, I just wanted to make sure I said that because I want to clear up misconceptions too. I want to celebrate my fellow veterans
Mhm.
and the people who are currently active duty. There are just a lot of misconceptions that I think are important to clear up. And any opportunity that I get or any platform that I get, I try to do that. So my transition, like I said, was much easier because
Mhm.
when I got ready to retire, you can put your retirement papers in a year out. I was a
Okay.
master sergeant, which is in E6, E7. Excuse me, E7. The highest enlisted rank is an E9.
Okay.
Enlisted rank 9. I was in E7, one of what they consider one of the top 3 enlisted ranks. I was in E7, a master sergeant. I put in my paperwork on the 9th. I worked for an admiral at the time, even though I was in the Air Force, Admiral Interwall. And I put in my paper, and he said to me, Bettina, why are you retiring? He said, you are online to make Chief Master Sergeant, which is the highest enlisted rank. And I looked at him and said, I know that. I said, and I'm leaving on my terms. And it
Mm-hmm.
was it wasn't a disrespectful conversation. It was he and I were he was a very cool guy. And I said, I want to leave on my terms, sir. I don't want to wait for people to say, is she retiring yet? I want to leave and make people say, why are you retiring? My
Yeah.
grandfather, Clarence O. Jones Sr., may he rest in heaven and in peace. He always told me, leave places on your own terms. Never overstay your welcome in someone's home, in a relationship, at a job. He said, don't make people have to tell you goodbye. You say
Mm-hmm.
goodbye on your own terms. And I always thought about that. So when I left, I felt good because people were constantly asking me, you sure you want to retire? I was like, absolutely. And I could have gotten a job working for the government as a GS11 immediately right there where I worked. I could have gotten a job.
Mm-hmm.
I had been working since I was 12 years old. I
Wow.
started babysitting in $25. I know I sound like a dinosaur, so I'm just, hold on. So I started babysitting at 20 when I was 12 years old for $25 an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I was 15 in Virginia, I lived in Virginia and I'm from Newport News, Virginia. At 15, we could go to the health department and get a health card, and you could work at 15 in like 8 months. So I
Mm-hmm.
started working at Wendy's. I worked
Mm-hmm.
at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I worked at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg for a while. I've always had a job. So I went from one to the other. So when I retired at 38 years old, I just said, I'm tired. And
Mm-hmm.
so, no, I don't want to work for the government. No, I don't want to work for somebody else. And no, I do not want you all to tell me when I can go to lunch. How about that? I'll go to lunch
Mm-hmm.
when I want to go. And I'm not going to wait for Miss Johnson to go to lunch because Miss Johnson been there forever. And she goes from 12 to 1 and she's not going to change that no matter what.
No
So,
matter
no,
what.
thank you.
Yeah.
I do not want anybody to tell me. So the transition for me was rather easy. I was able to sell my home in Virginia, move here to Georgia, and I had a smooth transition. Now, the blessing is my daughter. I retired in 2005. In August 2005, actually celebrated the retirement on my birthday. My daughter, Alexis Sellers, she enlisted in the Air Force the year before I retired in 2004.
Okay.
So she was there in her uniform at my retirement ceremony. So that was a joy, and it's I got to be on the side of parents that as a recruiter, I enlisted people. I got to be on the side of the parents who are watching their children go off. I'm gonna get a little choked up when I talk about my baby. And so when she enlisted and she went to the MEP station in Richmond, the military entrance processing station in Richmond, when I pulled out in the park, when I went out to the parking lot, I was like, okay, watched her swear in. It was all good. And I sat in at the time, I was a single parent, and that was my only child. And I said at the time, this is a situation when you making babies after you retire. That's not the day's story. So my children are 21 years apart. Anyway, so
Wow.
don't do that. Don't do that. You over there
Well,
counting.
thank you.
And, and so I sat in the parking lot in the parking garage and I cried because I said, what do I do now? Like my work was done. So my time in the military, as important as it was, I felt like my more important job was rearing my daughter to be a
Mm,
productive part of society, to be a good person, to make her mark in the world and to help and not harm.
mm,
So that was I had the opportunity. So I was very well prepared. I would suggest for people who are considering, either getting out or retiring. And the retirement is great because you got to check for the rest of your life, no
mm,
matter what. You have to
mm,
check for the rest of your
mm,
life. Start your process early. Don't start preparing. Start saving money.
mm,
Start deciding where you want to live and try to get assignments in the
mm,
area where you want to actually retire, so that you can you backing of the military, your military pay. The people see you're in the military, they're more willing to rent or sell to you.
Mhm.
We have benefits. Like I said, not a lot of money, benefits. You can
Mhm.
use your GI Bill to go to school. They call it
Mhm.
Chapter 13, now Chapter 11. Chapter, I got to remember which chapter it is. But anyway, you got money to go to school when you get out. My tongue's getting tired. So, but you have these benefits. Start preparing early.
Mhm.
Do everything you can uh, physically, I mean, like health wise, that you can get done prior to getting out. Because if you don't already have a job lined up, it may be a challenge finding one. So you need to be able to support yourself. You need to make sure all your physical stuff is taken care of. And every single, if you guys don't hear anything else that I'm saying today, if you don't hear anything else I'm saying today, if you are active duty now, if you have retired, if you're about to retire, and I don't care, or you're about to get out, no matter how many years you have been in or you've been out of the military, find out if you're entitled to veterans benefits.
Yeah.
Find out if you are entitled to veterans benefits. This is why I'm saying this. It doesn't matter how many years you've been out. You could be a Vietnam vet. If you've never filed for your veterans benefits, you need to file. I
Mhm.
always say to people, so you just gonna let them keep your money? Because you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And people look at you and they think they know. I'm 100% disabled veteran. I am 100% disabled veteran. People look at the picture and they're very confused. You
Mhm.
don't know what somebody's disability is. You
That's
don't
true.
know if somebody has had surgery on their stomach. You don't know if they've had spine surgery. You don't know if they have PTSD.
Mhm.
You just don't know. And PTSD is not exclusive to people who have served, who have had to go into combat. It
Mhm.
is not. They don't own it.
Mhm.
Many, 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 many of them have PTSD.
Mhm.
There are people who had incidents and issues while they were on active duty. There are men and women who have been sexually assaulted while on active duty. Never told anybody. Embarrassment, shame, humiliation, never told anyone. And the Veterans Administration, now I think it's getting better.
Mhm.
They wanted documentation.
Mhm.
They wanted documentation. How do you document? You think of all the civilians who have been sexually assaulted and never reported. Imagine being in the military and being a woman in a predominantly male career field where all you're surrounded by is men. Who are
Mhm.
you going to tell and feel safe?
Wow.
I
Well,
know I go through that sometimes.
that's a good way to segue into why you created your nonprofit. And you do the clean comedy. But before I do that, I just want to give a shout out. I see Miss Alexis, who's a veteran. We salute you. I saw my girl T Stanton, who served. She's a retired Army vet. I want to salute you. And thank you for that information you shared. And like I said, we're going to segue as we're beginning to wrap up. I want to hear about, because I've been to her comedy show, guys. It's clean comedy, it's fun comedy. It's a great concept. So I want you to tell us about your nonprofit and then how you birthed the clean comedy. What's the purpose?
Yes. So when I retired, I wanted to start a nonprofit organization for homeless, for women, for battered women. And that was the term that was used. And it was prior to me starting becoming a mental health professional. And so I wanted to do that. And I said I was going to do it. And I dreamt about it and retired. And 10 years went by and a baby came along and shock and awe of a new baby and trying to figure out why my poached egg, my boiled egg was actually poached and a baby came out of there. I was trying, anyway, so I wanted to do that. And as I moved further into space, God said in my spirit and said, stop waiting. Don't wait.
Mm,
Do what you have to do. And for a long, long time, I actually have been on Comic View twice. I'm on the Comic View All Star DVD. I worked with Bernie Mac. I had the pleasure of working with the late Bernie Mac. I worked with Dolomite, Rudy Ray
okay.
Moore. Had the honor of working with him. So I've been blessed, and I didn't take comedy seriously because when I was growing up, I never said I was going to be a comedian. That wasn't a big thing for me. I was not the class clown. I wasn't any of that. So things that you hear people say, That wasn't me. And so I fell into it by accident by them offering me a day off if I would host a show on base. That's how, a day off was real important when you were active duty. So that's how it came about. And I ended up doing it for a friend of mine named Carol. She was in the Base Talent Show. And it just kind of blew up from there.
Okay.
I say that that wasn't my plan. That was God's plan. As I progressed, I was blessed because I did most of my comedy while I was on active duty, and people could not believe that I was on active duty. I had supervisors and bosses and commanders that really respected what I did. Now, of course, they exploited it a little bit. And what I mean by that is they said, well, I need you to host a Christmas party. I need you to host this, that, and the other. Of course, I wasn't getting any money. Uh, it was fun, though, because everybody, they accepted me for exactly who I was. I was able to joke with my bosses, my commanders, make jokes with them and have a good time. And so once I had retired and got an opportunity to have a little space in my life, I said, I need to do something to help homeless veterans and survivors of domestic violence because my specialty in mental health is trauma. So I wanted to help them. And that's where Bettina and Families Showing Love Our Way Foundation. It's Bettina and Families because I want my children to let this legacy go on. I want my children to take that legacy further when I'm gone. I want them to have something to put their hands on for me, my children, and my grandchildren. And so I started that, and I was thinking to myself, how can I raise money for my foundation? And hence Clean Comedy for a Cause was created. Now my private practice is Sellers of Faith. My last name Sellers. My daughter came up with that name. Play on words is Sellers of Faith Counseling and Consultation. LLC. And so I had the opportunity to start the nonprofit. It took a lot of work, and I tried doing it myself. And there are people out here who are really good at doing that kind of stuff. The paper. You know how to do it, save money, and pay somebody to do it so it's done right, and it can, you can get it to do what you want it to do. So I started, and I had never done a show on my own. I had never produced my own comedy show. I had worked for a whole lot of people. I was riding in the car from Danville, Virginia. I had done a show, and my first lady, her name is Lena Strickland, my first lady, she was in the car with me. And as we were riding, she said, you could do this yourself. And I said, do what? She said, what you just did. She said, those people were on their feet. I got a standing ovation a couple times. And I knew that I could do it because I had the older women of the church that came up to me and said, baby, you had me cracking up. I should have wore the pins. And look, mother. I said, mother, go change your clothes, get your stuff, and we just, so I knew that was, to me, it was confirmation. However, riding back home those 6 hours, she said to me, you can do this yourself. And she said, we got a place where you could rent the place out. And she started kind of formulating that in my mind.
Wow.
And then I just started, and stuff started lining up. A lady named Erica Broadway put me in connection with somebody that worked at the Holiday Inn and Suites in Stockbridge, Joetti McNeil. And all of that started forming, things started falling into place. And I said, goodness gracious, stuff is really falling into place for me. First stage I had was a little rickety. People were standing. We had to get on the stage. Folk were scared to move. And the women on the show was a little thicker than a snicker like me. So they were wobbling. We were like, don't get too excited. Don't do nothing too fast. We don't want no real show. So the first show, I sold the tickets. I think they were $15. And I did stadium seating, and the room could seat like 200 people. I think I might have had 16 to 20 seats left over, maybe. And it blew my mind. It literally blew my mind to get the feedback after the show. I stay at the show and I shake hands, and I might not be shaking a whole bunch of hands now after all this. But anyway, I shake hands and hug and take pictures with people because I am grateful. I thank God every day for the gift. It took me, I don't know, 15, 20 years to recognize what I do as a gift from God. It wasn't for me. And so when I do Clean Comedy for a Cause, I'm doing it for the cause of raising my money, for the cause of bringing awareness that Christian comedy, you can be Christian and be funny. and still have a great time. A lot of times people think Christians can't have fun. Y'all Christians, I'm gonna wait. I still got some stuff I want to do before I'm gonna get saved. Okay, maybe that was me talking myself before I got saved. Okay, anyway. But however, so clean comedy and being able to bring people together, and it's amazing the number of people after my shows, they'll come and stand beside me and say, I didn't realize till the end you never cussed out once. I said, no. I said, clean comedy doesn't mean I took a bath first. It means clean comedy, right? I didn't take a bath before the show, though.
All right, that's good to know. Well, thank you so much, Bettina. I want people to be able to donate to your foundation because I think it's a great cause. But before we get into that donation, you're telling us all that. When is the next Clean Comedy for a Cause? Now, you have no excuse. You got Zoom. You got all these platforms now to choose from. And people will pay. You can make it a private show. So when is the next Clean Comedy for a Cause event?
Well, okay, you kicking me into action. I will put that together with my daughter and my team, and we'll figure out when we can do that. And you're right. I've been asked to do that a whole lot of times. I jumped on it and tried, and I won't say tried. I did it once, and I was sweating like a sinner in church in my living room and forgetting that I need an audience because I'm used to an audience. And my son came in with his brainiac self and said, "Listen, Mom, you're having a little trouble with your self-esteem right now. But you have to realize that you're used to an audience. You'll be okay. You just have to pick yourself back up." And so I did. I did another show. I redeemed myself. I did it on Facebook on my Bettina's Clean Comedy for a Cause Facebook page. You can go and like that page. It'd be great if you did that. And so I have Zoom. I will figure out a way to create a Zoom show because it is a great time being able to see people right in front of me live. There's so much material nowadays with the masks and this, that, and the other, and the way we are interacting with people nowadays. Life is funny by itself. We don't have to create comedy. Comedy creates itself, and it's right in front of us every single day with the people we see in public, with the clothes they wear, their choices, the way people drive, and all kinds of great stuff. So, yes, ma'am, I will make sure I.
All right, so we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to it.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll let you know so you can put it on your show, and maybe your audience will come and participate. And yes, ma'am.
I sure will. So where can they donate and give to your foundation?
Okay, so our website right now is in the process of being created. People basically, what you can do is they can inbox Betsell, my email, or they can inbox Clean Comedy for a Cause. They can go on Clean Comedy, www.cleancomedy4cause. That website is up. They can go there. And they can donate a whole lot of ways. It's the end of the year. It's time for you to start trying to get some tax donations in. Clean Comedy for a Cause. You will get your tax receipt. We are officially a 501c3, so you will get your money. We use the money for the people. And I want to say this really quickly. The thing that we just recently assisted with was a headstone for a young woman, Brittany Ellen White, who was murdered in 2018, January 2018, by her ex-boyfriend. He shot her in the head 5 or 6 times. So we helped with buying her headstone. So they can, there's a whole lot of ways. Go to Clean Comedy for a Cause, Bettina's Clean Comedy for a Cause, inbox me, send a message, send a note. You can go on www.cleancomedyforacause. You can put a note there. Let me know how you want to donate. And we can do Zelle. We can do a lot of different things. So I thank you so much for asking for that. We're not shaming any amount that you're offended by in the quarters or opinions. We're not offended. Oh, my daughter just put on there. I'm also.
I know. I was getting ready to say it. Yeah, she co-hosts the Say What podcast. For those of you, I followed them when they first started. They were the Kitchen Table radio show. It's been about 5 or 6 years ago when they started, but now it's Say What. And so it's a podcast, but you can see them live on Facebook. It's every second and fourth Saturday of the month. They need to just go every Saturday. I don't know why they're doing 2 Saturdays out of the month, but I just let them slide right now.
Wait. I have to correct you. I have to gently correct you. Okay. And say what?
Okay, there you go. I knew you knew how to do it. Yes. So
You said the
definitely
Say
go
What podcast. It's Say What?
Okay. So there you go. So I encourage you to go out and like the Say What podcast because I know Bettina now. I think I met all of you, but the bishop, who is Sonia Chapman, me and her has
Oh,
had the longest relationship, but these women are on point. They're on point. And just so you know, they're actually going to be my kickoff show in January. So when we start coming back for the new year, I'm going to have them on there. So I already know it's going to be phenomenal because we've got phenomenal women coming on the show. So, Bettina, before we finally wrap up, I just want you to give one last word of encouragement to those in the military because they always need some uplifting. So, what is one word of encouragement you want to give to them?
so I want to say, I don't know anyone. I don't know your faith specifically. I will say, I believe in God. I believe Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. You know that God gave His only begotten Son so that we could have life everlasting. I confess with my mouth. I believe in my heart, and I'll say, keep your faith. Have something that you can hold on to, and I'll tell you that even the person working as admin, you may not think your position is important. Your job, every single one of you important. Young people, I know you may not have walked in with a patriotic spirit. You may have walked in because you couldn't pay for college or whatever the case may be. Recognize the fact that you are very, very important. And look back at your ancestors and the people that went before you who didn't get honored the way the military is getting honored now, like the Vietnam veterans. They weren't honored. They were spat on. They were talked about. They were called baby killers and all kinds of things like that. Think about the
Mhm.
way we're being honored now and honor yourself. You're in the military, there is life outside of that. So prepare yourself while you're in the military as if you're not in the military. And what I mean by that is start saving money, start looking at what you can do to be successful on your way out the door or when you get out. And also, if you are encouraging someone to get in, be honest about what it is that you experience. Don't be dishonest. I was a very honest recruiter. I told them exactly what they would and would not get. I'd let them know based on their scores what they could not do if they came and thought they were going to be a rocket science. And I said, mm, your test scores say you're going to do admin or something else. So, which is an important position, right? So I'm
Yes,
just saying,
yes.
I didn't lie to my airmen that I enlisted. So keep the faith, hold your head up, wear your uniform with pride. Remember, you decided to enlist. This is a volunteer military now. You
Mhm.
weren't drafted. So wear your uniform with pride. Hold your head up, whatever branch you're in. And when people ask me as a recruiter, they ask me what branch was the best branch. I said the branch that you enlist in is the best branch
That's
because
true.
every branch is not for every person.
That's
The Air
true.
Force was for me, the Marines that are there, and the sailors and the Army and the Coast Guard. People forget about the Coast Guard. So Army,
Mhm.
Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. They're
Mhm.
all branches of the armed forces, and they're here to protect and defend all of you from enemies, foreign and domestic. And we are grateful for the appreciation. So thank you very much for having me. I
You're
thank you
welcome.
so much. God bless you and your program. And I'm looking forward to being here in January.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on here. And like I said, we salute all branches of government, of the military. Bless a vet today. I don't know. You may see somebody out. Typically, you see them because they're gonna always wear their hat. They're gonna always represent some kind of way. Anybody that's a vet, you see, if they're disabled, they got the she represented. If they're disabled, they have their special tags on their cars, so you'll be able to see. You'll know a vet. So bless them. And you know what? A simple blessing doesn't always mean monetary, guys. A simple thank you,
Yes.
thank you, for what you've done. So definitely, they wear their uniform in pride. And I just thank Bettina for being here. I want to remind you guys that you can follow me at DNA of Diversity. My podcast episode 2 will be live today at 12 noon. So check me out if you have downloaded from Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast from. Check me out, DNA of Diversity. Also, I want to remind you if you're interested in becoming a part of She Is Still Dope, you want to be a part of our global referral network, you can go to www.sheisstilldope.com to join a chapter or even start your own chapter if there's no chapter in your area. The Atlanta chapter meeting is scheduled for November 17th. at 7 p.m. If you're interested in coming in and hearing about what we're doing, you can email me at atl@sheisstilldope.com. And I thank Bettina when she mentioned about, for those who did not know, don't know Christ, she said it's very simple. Romans 10:9 and 10. God's word says, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus came, he died, he rose again, you're saved. So we want to encourage you. Just say that, Lord, come into my life. And I promise you all, he will come into your life and you will never be the same. You'll be changed for the greater. And like he said, he gave his only begotten son that whosoever believeth in him will have everlasting life. So even when we're not on the natural side, we're still alive because we're in heaven with our Father. So I want to thank you all. And next week on 11/18, it will be Elder Carla Hunter, the host of Sassy for the Savior. Guys, we're going to close out the month of November talking about giving thanks. I think we need to give some thanks for this year because 2020 has been met with some challenges. But for those of you who are in Christ, he said, I never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. And I have seen the hand of God on his children, on his daughters, especially. But I know that word was prophesied over a year ago that God's daughters were going to be walking into some things that they never would have imagined that they were going to walk into. And I promise you, I have seen it happen. So once again, thank you, Bettina. Please go out, make your donations. I don't know if you guys could see, but I'm representing my shirt today, World Changer shirt. So I got my shirt in the mail, so I'm representing today. And this has been an awesome day. And I always want to tell you, be the change you want to see in others. If you're asking how, lead by example. Be the example you want to see others do. And we're going to walk in faith. We're going to live in hope and always showing the love of Christ to whomever we cross paths with. Everyone have a blessed day. Thank you, Bettina.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
God bless you.